Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I cover a different independent computer role-playing game. This week I'm covering a tactical RPG with an incredibly retro feel. Developed and published by Esturia Games, Battle for Esturia was released in March of 2020 and is available on both Steam and itch.io. Battle of Esturia is retro in the extreme, using not only pixel-based graphics, but pixel graphics that resemble something out of the 80s computer era. The user interface, map tiles, everything seems like a callback to the late Apple II, early DOS era series, perhaps the early Ultima era. Gameplay-wise, however, it does implement some modern conveniences. In terms of plot, you are present in the land of Esturia when a great evil descends upon the land. After being rendered unconscious, you awaken in a small village north of Esturia, where you are told that the Lich King has taken over Esturia and begun to spread evil throughout the land. You are tasked with solving some local problems, gathering allies, and then setting off to find a way to defeat the Lich King and his armies. It's actually more than I expected for a title like this, and is fairly well done for how minimalist the game is in a lot of other ways. When you start a new game, you are able to select a class for your main character. There are 4 basic classes: the Hoplite, which uses spear and shield, the Barbarian, the primary melee class, the Elementalist, which is your spellcaster, and the Ranger, who specializes in ranged attacks. You then get the introductory scenes allow you to get direct into the game's plot. After a fight you pretty much are destined to lose. You then wake up in a village north of Esturia. The main game screen represents the characters about you and the world in a tile-based format that dominates the screen. Rather than having scrolling tile-based maps, each screen is its own fixed map, and you journey to adjacent maps by moving off the edges or into entrances. You can then click on the ground to move to a place, click on an NPC to talk to them, and so forth. The game is pretty much entirely mouse-driven. On the right side are your various menu options. Map opens up the map of the world, which allows you not only to see the areas where various settlements are, but also how each screen connects to another. After this is the journal that keeps track of active quests. Equip allows you to review and equip items for each character. Each character can only equip 3 things: a weapon, an armor, and an accessory. The use option allows you to use items such as potions and other consumables, while discard allows you to discard items to free up inventory space. Finally is the party screen, where you may review the stats of each character in your party. Beneath this is your gold total, as well as the number of keys that you own. Each character has a name and a class, then hit points and energy points. Energy points are used for skills that the character may activate during combat. On the right, there's experience needed to reach the next level. Under this are your character screen with your attributes and your skills. Each character has strength that affects melee attacks, vitality that affects hit points, mind that affects spellcasting and energy points, dexterity that affects armor class and ranged attacks, and finally agility that determines how far you can move on each turn. Skills are based on the character's class and effectively represent special attacks and defenses to use during combat. Each skill has a current level, then a maximum level, with higher level skills generally doing more damage. Whenever you level a character up, their hit points increase, but you also gain 1 attribute point to distribute amongst your attributes, as well as 1 skill point. The first village has a shop where you can buy consumables, as well as an inn where you can reclaim your energy. As you journey out into the world, you move from map screen to map screen. When you enter a screen, relevant messages appear in the box to the lower right. Exploration is pretty free-moving in this way, with the ability to pick up items, talk to NPCs, or use items such as switches simply by clicking on them. At least until you enter a screen with a group of enemies. When you encounter a group of enemies, you enter fight mode, and there are no really random encounters. All enemy emplacements are fixed from the beginning. In the combat mode, the enemies are laid out on the map screen, and you may select members of your party to execute actions. Each character may move and execute 1 attack or skill during your turn. Once all of your characters have both moved and acted, then play proceeds to the enemy turn. When you select a character, their movement radius is outlined in blue. Mousing over a tile will show how much cover that tile offers, which can help with defenses. Once the character has moved, their available actions are then displayed. This generally consists of waiting, performing a basic attack, using a consumable, or using a skill. Using a skill or using a basic attack will outline the range of that attack in red. Play proceeds back and forth until either the party or the enemies are dead. On a victory, the party may receive money as well as experience. While having a party member get knocked out in combat removes them from play, returning to town and resting at an inn will not only heal hit points and restore energy, but automatically raise those who are knocked out back to full health. Alternatively, one can use various recovery consumables to restore them in the field. And that's pretty much it for gameplay. You wander around, exploring the world, facing enemies, performing quests, and upgrading your characters. It is the most basic but most fundamental of role-playing game setups. Graphically, the game uses stock tile sets and a user interface that, as mentioned before, resembles something from either 8-bit era, early era, or 80s era computer gaming. Personally, I have a lot of nostalgia for this sort of graphical presentation, and the tiles and interface are well selected, forming a very cohesive sort of art direction. As far as audio goes, I'm glad to say that the game departs from the 8-bit era in this instance. It uses some stock sound effects. True, they are well selected to provide minimal feedback, but not be annoying. By contrast, the programmer also did the music, and it's actually surprisingly solid. I'm honestly a little bit surprised in this regard. Maybe nothing that really sticks in your head, but it does avoid being annoying at its worst, and is actually pretty fitting and fun at its best. The writing and quest setups are done well as well. You have options as to how to approach conversations in a lot of instances, giving you some leeway in how you want your character to come across, and although the quests start out pretty basic, they're varied enough that it seems a bit more complex than your standard 8-bit era game of that time, at least the time that it's seeking to evoke. From all appearances, Battle of Esturia isn't very long, just a few to several hours depending on how much you explore, but those hours may well pass by quickly due to the fairly tight organization of the quests. The various combats can range from dead easy to somewhat challenging, but there is an autosave system that allows you to pick up from just before your last battle if you fail. This can somewhat trivialize the challenge of the game, since you can just pick up and try again, but at the same time it fits with the game's overall feel. It allows one to enjoy the storyline and explore the world in a sort of casual retro RPG format, without having to manage dozens of save files as one might have had during the day. All in all, Battle for Esturia is not super outstanding, but it does present a very solid and enjoyable experience that serves as a sort of template for what you might expect out of a basic retro RPG. Clean, nostalgic graphics, decent music selection, interesting quests that don't go over the top, a fairly traditional setting, options for character advancement, a handcrafted world that departs from the whole procedural generation fad, and combat that, while simple, is pretty easy to learn and still presents a little bit of a challenge without becoming a brick wall. In my opinion, it's worth every dollar on Steam, at least for an afternoon of amusement, although your mileage may vary on that. But the fact that it's also available on itch.io as a pay-what-you-want offering may appeal to those who want to try it out, but don't necessarily want to pay a whole lot. Still, if you end up enjoying the game and you end up getting it off itch.io, it may be worth tossing a few bucks afterwards the devs' way. I personally wouldn't mind seeing an expanded sequel to this at some time. But on that note, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday Battle for Esturia. As always, I'll leave a link to where you can pick it up below. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye. And if you're still watching this far, I'd like to take a moment to thank those who have supported this channel via Patreon or direct donations throughout the years, without which this channel could not have lasted as long as it has. For those who are feeling particularly generous, you can still support my work through Patreon and now through Subscribestar as well, through the links in the description below.